Phantasialand has a reputation for doing things differently. While other theme parks chase record-breaking heights or raw speed, this family-owned park in rural Germany is obsessed with world-class theming, total immersion, and attractions that push the theme park industry forward. They've proven this time and time again, with attractions such as Taron, Chiapas, and Black Mamba all being world-class attractions in their own right. But in March 2017, they teased something even more ambitious, an entirely new area promising to be their most heavily themed yet. Development of this new attraction began after Chiapas was completed in 2014, with Vekoma identified as Phantasialand's #1 contractor from the start. The park wanted two things: a simple, streamlined loading process, and a custom design, heavily themed and immersive within a small plot of land that used to house an IMAX simulator ride. All the details were kept in secret for years until in June 2017, the full picture became clear, when Phantasialand revealed they were building F.L.Y and the steampunk city of Rookburgh. Set to be not only the world's longest flying coaster, but the very first flying coaster ever built with a launch. Phantasialand wanted Vekoma to engineer a completely redesigned seating system, with new loading technology built specifically for this ride. The world built around the ride is just as extraordinary as the ride itself. A fictional steampunk industrial city called Rookburgh, home to the Rookburgh Air Rail Company, a visionary aerial transportation firm on a mission to enable flight for all of mankind. Every inch of the area tells that story with a wonderful attention to detail. Rookburgh only contains one ride, and everything in the area serves to enhance the theming and atmosphere of F.L.Y. The whole city is fully enclosed on all four sides and serves as an extension to the Berlin-themed entrance plaza. It's almost like Rookburgh is the industrial underbelly of the Berlin section of the park. Getting the ride built wasn't easy though. Construction was a meticulous bottom-up process spanning over 4 years, and then a global pandemic hit right as the finish line came into view. The ride completed construction in 2019, but couldn't open as planned, eventually soft opening on September 17, 2020, under strict COVID capacity restrictions. When guests finally got in, what they found was unlike anything else on the planet. Over 1,200 metres of track, 2 LSM launches, 2 inversions, and an immersive and surprising dark ride pre-launch section. All woven through a themed environment so dense that the coaster goes under and over itself over 100 times, and flies in and out of the on-site hotel Charles Lindbergh. This is the story of how F.L.Y got built. The engineering breakthroughs, the years of construction, and the absolutely insane attention to detail that makes it one of the most celebrated theme park attractions ever created. Nothing can quite prepare you for the first time you walk into Rookburgh. You may have visited other themed lands and experienced other immersive attractions, but there's not much that can compare to the level of detail and immersion that Phantasialand achieved with F.L.Y. To understand what makes F.L.Y so significant, we first have to look at the flying coasters that came before it. The world's first flying coaster was Skytrack at Granada Studios Tour in Manchester, England. It opened in October 1997 and closed in 1998 after encountering reliability issues. It truly was an experimental prototype, with only one person per car and a tiny layout. It was more of a proof of concept than a finished product, but it paved the way and showed it was possible for the prone position to be viable for roller coaster design. Vekoma, the eventual designers of F.L.Y, were the first major manufacturer to enter the flying coaster scene with stealth at California's Great America in 2000. The Flying Dutchman model was Vekoma's attempt at making a larger scale, commercial version of a flying coaster. There were 3 of these models built, all in the USA, and all are now defunct. Plagued with slow operations due to the awkward and uncomfortable loading procedure, where guests were first loaded onto the train standing up and then placed on their backs, the capacity of these coasters wasn't very good, so not many parks decided to invest. The next big company to have a go at making people fly was Bolliger and Mabillard, or B&M, and they were the first to stick the landing and popularise this style of coaster. Instead of the lying down loading procedure present on the Vekoma model, B&M flyers have the train below the track during loading, and the seats simply lift up to place the riders in the prone position before setting off for their ride. These were a much bigger hit than their Vekoma counterparts and quickly caught on around the world. After the debut of Air at Alton Towers, the world's first B&M flying coaster in 2002, 5 more were built before the end of 2006, including Superman, Ultimate Flight, and Tatsu. While these models were popular, they were still expensive and had long loading procedures, and they left you stuck lying face down at the floor at the end of the ride as you wait for the next train to depart the station. Then we have the Zamperla. The less said about them, the better. But let's just say that riding one of these is like sticking your head in a washing machine, and I wish for every park that has one to demolish it as soon as possible. So, by the time Phantasialand and Vekoma sat down together in 2014, the flying coaster genre had a clear identity problem. The concept was thrilling in theory, everyone wants to know what it feels like to fly. But every previous attempt had compromised on comfort, capacity, or both. Before we get into Vekoma's second attempt, I want to note that Disney had actually patented a concept for a new generation of flying coaster as a possible future project, where guests board a track that goes vertically, and each group has a more intimate loading procedure where they can't see anyone else. But ultimately, it was never built. That brings us to 2020 and the opening of F.L.Y. Vekoma were back with a new and improved second generation of their flying coaster model, this time aiming to fix the issues associated with the previous models. Instead of loading passengers on their backs or lifting them up into the flying position, the new versions have passengers load with their backs facing the rails and sat in an upright position. It's a much more familiar loading procedure for anyone who's ridden roller coasters before, and it enables the ride operators to quickly check all restraints and get the train moving. Unlike the previous generations of flying coasters, F.L.Y puts you into the prone position after the ride vehicle starts moving, with the track tilting to be above you and the seats rotating to put you flat on your belly under the track, flying. There is unfortunately no footage of this happening on F.L.Y, as Phantasialand are very protective of the element of surprise for this ride, but footage from Vekoma's test facility gives you a sense of just how smooth and seamless the whole thing is. To help even further with the discomfort some people can experience on flying coasters, Vekoma tilted their seats 15 degrees forward in an attempt to give riders a better view. They also modified the leg restraints for better support. Another improvement the new Vekoma model has over its predecessors is launches. All previous iterations of flying coasters feature lift hills, but F.L.Y has 2 LSM launches in its 4,000 foot layout. This really helps achieve the sensation of mimicking flight as you get up to speed straight away, and don't have to wait to reach the top of a lift hill. Seems like a small change, but in practice it transforms the sensation of the ride entirely for the better. The construction process for F.L.Y was longer than almost any theme park attraction outside of Disney or Universal, understandably. The previous ride occupying the space, Race for Atlantis, was demolished in early 2016, and F.L.Y didn't open until September 2020. Almost 4 years to build one ride, but the quality really shows. The whole land was built from the ground up, with a pit being dug underground to help alleviate some of the problems caused by Phantasialand's height restrictions. The area the ride sits in is extremely dense and had to be constructed layer by layer. It was one of the most methodical construction processes the theme park industry has ever seen. While no official source exists, it is said that the first piece of track was installed on August 1st, 2017, and the final piece on April 25th, 2019, nearly 2 years later. For context, Six Flags Great Adventure's new 375-foot tall Giga Coaster went vertical on March 19th, 2026, and was topped off on July 1st, just 3.5 months later. It really goes to show the overwhelming amount of theming and engineering that went into building F.L.Y, and you just can't help but be impressed when you're there. With varying floor levels, limited space, and over 100 points where the track crosses over itself in just a 100 by 75 metre site, the challenge was immense, but they managed to pull it off in spectacular style. This layered process really was necessary. With the number of times the track passes over, under, and through buildings and theming, they couldn't just plonk the ride in after the buildings were made, or vice versa. Everything in the site is connected. Buildings act as support foundations, theming pieces double up as functional walls, and there's even a fully themed immersive hotel, where guests can have the coaster flying right outside their aeronaut cabin-style rooms. Vekoma's Stefan Holtman described one of the central engineering challenges. They had to fit the ride station, 2 launch sections, brake sections, transfer tables, and storage spurs within a clearance envelope of just 3.6 metres, meaning every single piece of track, every support, every crossover, had to fit within an imaginary box only 3.6 metres wide. With 100 crossovers packed in that tight, the margin for error was essentially zero. For track design and fabrication, Vekoma used cutting-edge 3D CNC bending machines developed specifically for the company, as well as a G-force-based design tool and special procedures on track assembly to create a constant and smooth ride experience. The construction company, RCS GmbH, oversaw the on-site assembly, working alongside Vekoma to navigate the varying floor levels, tight tolerances, and the sheer complexity of integrating a world record flying coaster with a fully operational steampunk city. The theming was handled by specialists brought in from across Europe. Danish creative firm MK Themed Attractions produced many of Rookburgh's larger set pieces, including a full-scale replica steam locomotive positioned on top of F.L.Y's first launch. Composers from Imascore worked on the sound design for the entire area, scoring the ambient soundscape of a steampunk city from scratch. On September 17, 2020, the world finally got to see what Phantasialand had been working so hard on for the last few years. After 4 years of construction, a global pandemic, and what felt like an eternity of waiting for the coaster community, Rookburgh and F.L.Y finally soft opened. Guests experiencing the ride enter the queue next to the first launch track and proceed to walk over and under the coaster, encountering some switchbacks and high levels of theming throughout. Going into the station building, you're presented with the choice to take the normal queue or wait for the front row, something definitely worth doing at least once. The next room features projections on the wall detailing how to board and what to do with loose articles, as nothing is allowed to be taken on the ride with you, due to the lack of netting, leaving the possibility of loose items hitting guests walking around Rookburgh. Eventually you make your way to the loading station to experience the ride. The layout consists of many tight turns, 2 launches, 2 barrel rolls, and even an airtime hill, which on a flying coaster is like nothing I've experienced before. A handful of lucky guests got to experience the world-class attraction quietly opening its doors for the first time in a COVID-restricted capacity. The Hotel Charles Lindbergh opened a few days later and has since won awards for Europe's best themed hotel. The industry took notice quickly. F.L.Y won a European Star Award for Europe's Best New Coaster of 2020, and in September 2021, it was nominated by Amusement Today for 2 Golden Ticket Awards, Best New Roller Coaster of 2020/21 and Best New Attraction Installation, placing 3rd for each. Vekoma themselves were separately nominated for Best Innovation for their work on F.L.Y's hardware, and later received an IAPA Brass Ring Award for Best New Product in 2021, proving not only had Phantasialand built a winner, but Vekoma had successfully redefined flying coasters and brought up the standard for the rest of the industry to aim for. While we haven't seen another version of this model just yet, rumours have circulated about a second installation of the model at Warner Bros. World on Yas Island in Abu Dhabi, though there are also whispers of an exclusivity clause between Vekoma and Phantasialand that may delay or prevent that. Nothing is confirmed either way, but the enthusiasm around the possibility says everything about the reputation F.L.Y has built, and the legacy it will provide for the industry as a whole. F.L.Y isn't really a roller coaster that can be compared to others in a like-for-like sense. No one really cares about what elements the ride has, the track length, the top speed, etc. F.L.Y really serves to answer a question. What would it feel like to fly? That question drove Phantasialand and Vekoma to strive for perfection through 6 years of conception, engineering, development and construction. It drove the decision to construct an entire themed area from the ground up, layer by layer, so that a roller coaster, a hotel, a bar, and shops could all exist in the same space as a single experience. It drove them to score the sound of a steampunk city. It drove them to put a replica steam locomotive on top of a launch track because why not? Because Phantasialand does things differently. The result of all this is an attraction that changed what guests can expect from a flying coaster, and what the industry expects from Vekoma, who were once known for their janky loopers, old flying coasters and boomerangs. It proved that a family-owned park with strict noise and height limitations could build something in a tiny footprint that can compete with the best rides in the world. Every person who has walked through the tunnel from Berlin to Rookburgh has stopped in their tracks and looked up at a world that blew them away, that they didn't know was possible. but Phantasialand are in the business of impossible, and F.L.Y has proven them to be among the best in the world. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, please like and subscribe. It really means a lot and helps the channel grow. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.